And that's about it. Done. Whew. I have to say, that was the most incensed and passionate podcast we've ever recorded, wouldn't you agree?
Yes, it's very insightful, actually.
Also, we somehow managed to have a very interesting conversation about peanut butter jelly. No human has ever been able to do that.
And I've had a really lovely time talking about my time baking millionaire shortbreads.
That sounds wonderful and delectable. I cannot wait to listen to this recording back for that really funny joke that you made about Wonder Bread. Mwah! That one was for the ages. Okay, so send me over the recording so that I can listen to it.
Recording? I thought you were recording.
Oh, that's a good one, Devar. No, we agreed before this that you were the one recording tonight.
No? I could have sworn that you said that you were going to record tonight?
No, that was last week. This week you were the one doing the recording. So you didn't record it then?
No.
And I didn't record it?
Sure, you did, right? I mean, that's. It was the subject you brought forth. You didn't record it, did you?
Can you excuse me for a minute?
And
Hello everyone, welcome back to the actual MADPlay podcast. I sure hope you enjoyed that very funny bit in the cold opening, which is every podcaster's worst nightmare. If we gave somebody a bit of the existential dread, I would consider the mission a success. The mission being giving people existential dread. Boy, I sure would have loved to have some prepared video game footage for us to analyze tonight for the usual gameplay portion of our MADPlay podcast, but alas, they can't all be winners, you know?
Yeah, sadly, yeah.
I guess I will procure some last-minute gameplay footage from somewhere, I don't know. Right now, this is a problem for future Madhog. Oh, and by the way, hi future Madhog. He's probably going to add some silly sound effects or
change the tone of my voice in editing to make me sound dumb.
Yes, you do that, future Madhog. Wait a minute.
It's going to be a problem, so...
Let's get the usual introduction out of the way. I am Madhog, thy master, your host. This is my beautiful, gorgeous, mancakey co-host, Devar Arkvaron, here to provide all the fan service.
I mean, as much as I identify as both male and women on an occasion, depending on how I feel, it's
Devar.
It's complicated.
Devar, you cannot keep doing this to me. You cannot let me find out new important things about you always while we record podcasts. You always do this to me. It's all about me, by the way, obviously. Devar, for crying out loud, I found out you were bi during a podcast as we were recording it with guests.
Well, technically, you found out I had a boyfriend before.
Pan, technically, not bi. Sorry about that. But let me vent. And then I found out you're also asexual during a podcast, and now it happened again. You're telling me you're gender fluid? Can you please, Devar? I'm begging you. Can you please tell me these things in private? I'm your friend. You can trust me.
Well, yeah, I know, but for some reason it just kind of comes out that way.
I have to start the Devar queer agenda checklist just for you and cross a few things off of it already. What's the counter now? 3? I'm
prob-
losing it
probably-
already. Devar!
Probably.
Devar!
Probably.
I love you, but... Trust me a little bit more, please.
I do. It's nothing against you. It's just that, like I said before to you, I just kind of don't consider it important to advertise it all that much.
And yet you spill it on a podcast, which is the opposite of not advertising it. Comedy beat aside, I am happy for you, Devar.
Yeah.
Discovering yourself is wonderful, even if it takes you your whole life, sometimes.
Yeah.
Okay, so I might as well spill the bean myself.
What's in your closet?
Okay, it's nothing too spectacular or interesting, and I don't really think too hard about it. I just go with the flow on that one. Basically, I am aromantic, I believe is the term. Not asexual, because I definitely have the drive. Although I do understand that there is a spectrum of asexuality. But to keep things simple for now, I am not interested, nor have I ever been interested, in pursuing romantic relationships. The emotional responsibility that comes with it is too much for me.
Okay, that makes sense.
So we are opposite in that sense, you and I.
Yeah, we are.
Like I said, I don't make a big deal out of it. I don't think there is any need to do so. I'm just some white heterosexual guy otherwise. We just passed Pride Month in the month of June, so we might as well keep the party going.
I always keep the party going all year long anyway.
Yes, unlike your best friends and mine, the corporations.
Yeah,
I was being sarcastic.
I just like to abuse them.
If only. We have to get back at them somehow. We cannot eat the rich yet, so something else has to be done. Maybe we can steal some pencils? I don't know. I am not advocating for theft or piracy while we're at it, because that would be wrong and or illegal.
Yeah.
Wink. Okay, with that out of the way...
Yeah.
Will we ever record a sane introduction?
Probably not.
Okay, well, I wouldn't have it any other way. Let's jump into the topic. Wahoo! As they say. Into the topic. That's the sound I make as I jump into the topic. Anyway, yes. Okay, sure. That was an attempt, at the very least. Why I have attacked Odvar, right? I just found it out on my own. I just said to myself, hey, why not to fight this guy for easy experience points right off the bat? Well, and then I did. And then my adventure began. This is how my adventure starts.
Yeah, even though I think that the choices you make in video games don't define you as a person, it just feels wrong to attack someone who wasn't even a threat to begin with.
It's okay, it's an Imperial. So as you can see, I have sped things up. Skyrim around at the speed of sound. Got places to be, gotta train those skills. Okay, we are back to regular speed now.
Okay, so Alvar has already forgiven you. Okay,
No,
you
no. That's not how it works, you see. Advar is programmed to follow the main path to Riverwood, which means he's going to chase you forever.
Yeah, well, poor fighter.
Okay, so you can see just how easily I'm taking down enemies. The first enemies. With my bare claws.
Yeah. And I see that you're using first person even on battles. I felt that I needed the third person view so I could properly define my play.
He's back! Here we go again! Skyrim around at the speed of sound. Good places to be, gotta follow my rainbow. Please stop chasing me, you brute angry man. I don't want to die, I have my life ahead of me. Just stop chasing me around. I have better things to do. I have a quest to go through, 'cause I'm the chosen of this adventure. Don't chase me, set me free. If you stop chasing me, you will let me leave. That would be nice of you, Hadvar. Set me free. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so allow me not to bury the lead for a change.
Okay.
Recently, there has been a new release, which is the Klonoa Fantasy Reverie series. Essentially, they took Klonoa Door to Phantom Isle from the PlayStation 1 and the direct sequel, Klonoa Lunatia's Veil, for the PlayStation 2, the launch year of the PlayStation 2 to be specific, in 2001. The good people at Monkeycraft, the developing studio responsible for this, did in fact remake them from the ground up. Namco Bandai obviously did not really advertise it that much because they are Bandai Namco. They have never had any real faith in this intellectual property. But in spite of the universe conspiring against us, the Klonoa fans, clearly the most oppressed of all demographics,
Oh, next to nobody getting an F-Zero release.
next to them, I suppose. Listen, if Metroid can make a comeback from Oblivion, then so can anything else, I would say. Anyway, Klonoa. Some of you, probably most of you, have never heard about this video game franchise and series, and some of you might have heard it for the very first time this year. Perhaps some of your favorite streamers might be actually in the process of playing these games. I seem to recall that one of the HoloLive VTubers, Korone, the dog anime girl.
Korone,
yes, she did a playthrough of the game. I know that because there is an English subtitled video of that playthrough, specifically about her reaction to the ending of the game. Which is everything I would have wanted it to be, personally. What even is Klonoa? Klonoa is an underdog franchise. It was ideated by the same guy responsible for Ninja Gaiden, of all people. It presents itself in the deceptive guise of a late 90s cute and bubbly mascot platformer, the kind of which was saturating the market at the time. But it does have its own unique take on the genre, or the subgenre, if you will. It's a 2.5D puzzle platform game with an interesting, simple mechanic that takes full advantage of the environment that a 2.5D perspective can provide, clever and interesting puzzles and puzzle designs. The Klonoa games are very fun to play, but I'll be honest, that's the least interesting aspect about Klonoa to discuss, the gameplay. The gameplay is fun and good, and you will have a good time with it. It gets hard at some point and very challenging, but it's addicting. It has a simplicity in its design philosophy in that there are 2 commands. Everything else is built on top of this simple mechanic. It gets extremely complex at some point, especially if you bother to do the extra challenges. Essentially, it revolves on a rather unique mechanic for the time, in which Klonoa, titular protagonist, has a wind-powered ring with a magical creature inside of it. Don't ask. He can suck up enemies to him, which would proceed to inflate them, and with said inflated enemy, which he would carry around for however long he needs to, he can either use them as weapons against other enemies, launching them back at them, or he can use them to perform a double jumping. And that's the core gameplay loop in Klonoa. Every puzzle is designed to accommodate this specific approach. Eventually, when you're practiced enough at it, you will be good enough to pull off some sick tricks, let me tell you. For example, there are puzzles that have a line of enemies, a line of flying enemies, one on top of the other. So if you're fast enough, you can grab on an enemy midair, then launch yourself with a double jump, grab an enemy while you're still flying, and go for a triple and quadruple jump, and so on and so forth. It gets very hard, and some boss fights are very frustrating, but it's an enriching experience merely in terms of gameplay. However, there is a lot more to say about Klonoa when it comes to the narrative, or, well, the subtext. The multi-layered subtext of the Klonoa games, because yes, these games lure you in with the promise of a fun, cheerful time, but they use that expectation from the player to pull the rug when they need to. There is a lot more to these games than meets the eye, and that's part of the aforementioned deception. To be perfectly honest with you, I am uncharacteristically hesitant to talk about them in details. You see, I could talk hours and hours about Klonoa, analyzing its themes and its theming in relation to the narrative. I could talk about it being a very well-written allegory that uses both its gameplay language and its traditionally narrative language to convey difficult subjects. I could talk at length about what any of that means, according to my reading of the text and the subtext. But at the same time, I really do want people to discover this game for themselves, to react to this game without any preconceived notion of it. Because even by simply implying that there is more to this game than meets the eye, as I have just now, I have created a preconceived notion of it for whomever is listening, including you, Devar. I want people to be surprised by Klonoa. I want it to change people's lives as it changed mine. It is quite an experience. I guess I could talk to you about when I played Klonoa the first time, which I would consider one of my formative video game experiences. Shaped my perception of video games as an art form.
Yeah.
How their language and their means can be used to convey themes and narratives, and so on and so forth. It was the year of 2009. I was in my early 20s, so I still consider this a formative experience because the brain has not finished developing. I happened to own a Nintendo Wii at the time. Incidentally, the first game I played for the Wii was the ill-conceived sequel to Nights into Dreams, which is another franchise that's drowning in obscurity.
Yeah.
Right. I happened to catch wind. Get it? Because it's Kaze no Klonoa, the original title, Klonoa of the Wind. That's a pun.
yeah, okay. I get it.
So anyway, I caught wind of the trailer for what was at the time the first remake of Klonoa Door to Phantom Isle, the classic PlayStation 1 video game. I saw the trailer and I was immediately intrigued because I saw what the protagonist looked like. And I guess I should talk about who the protagonist is at some point. It has just occurred to me that I am yet to describe who or what Klonoa is.
Yeah, it's not like his name's on the box or anything. I mean,
Klonoa is one of the best designed characters of all time. Period. Possibly
Agreed.
my favorite character of all time. He's definitely up there. He's definitely in the top 5 in that sense.
Klonoa's design is definitely very aesthetically pleasing to the eye overall. Yes. The design itself is a lot of charm in it because it's probably best you describe it since you know the character more, but it's definitely got all the hallmarks of what you would expect from something from the 90s to pop up.
It was definitely designed to intrigue and allure kids to the promise of a good time. It was part of the deception, you see. So Klonoa is a hybrid between a cat and a rabbit. A cabbit, if you will. He's got a monochromatic fur. In the first iteration of the character, he was this little guy, little cute fluffy cat rabbit boy with a red dog collar that was as big as his shoulders, tiny shoulders, a short tail, red trousers, and a really cute Pac-Man hat. Yes, he literally wears a Pac-Man hat in-universe. It is not explained why he does have a Pac-Man hat, but given the true nature of this character, it doesn't really need an explanation for that. In fact, it makes perfect sense why he would have a Pac-Man hat.
Where basically the company implants a design that works as a reference / Easter egg, but also works with the character in some way. So basically it takes out 2 birds with 1 stone.
The aesthetic, the design, the presentation of the character informs the allegorical storytelling and the metatextual reading, too, of the entire franchise. In the world of Klonoa, concepts such as dreams and memories play an important part. They are essentially the leitmotif in all of its games. The titular Phantom Isle in Klonoa 1 is a land literally made of its inhabitants' dreams. Lunatia, from the sequel, Lunatia's Veil, is a land that is presented like a fractured mind, with every area representing a different emotion. Each emotion is hyper-heightened in its isolation from the other areas, and there might be an additional secret area somewhere beneath the quote-unquote veil. One might say it's repressed. And I said too much already. The inhabitants of Lunatia are too preoccupied in drowning in their own memories to pay attention to their own world. So like I said, the dreams, memories, the possible repression or suppression thereof, they all play an important role in this series. The so-called Fantasy Reverie series, if you will. Or the 2 mainline Klonoa games, because there are plenty spin-offs. I'm focusing primarily on these 2 titles because on one hand, they were the ones re-released in this new package, which I would encourage you to buy, by the way. And on the other hand, they also tell a cohesive, coherent narrative. On a superficial level, they might seem 2 different stories with different characters and different stakes, but truly there is a thematic journey happening between these two games. It begins with Door to Phantomile, and it reaches its bittersweet conclusion in Lunatia's Veil. Door to Phantomile, in particular, does an interesting job in linking together the idyllic memory of childhood with the ethereal nature of dreams, as well with the concept of gaming. All these ideas are linked together by the fact that they are brief. There is a brevity and a finality to them. The inevitability of change looms on the horizon. Dreams end, video games end, childhoods end. If Phantomile can be seen as the dream of childhood, then the world of Lunatia can be seen as what happens next, the path forward that leads towards its organic conclusion. I could go more in detail into this reading, but I've said too much already. I've especially said way too much without actually spoiling any specific plot points, because believe you me, there are spoilers to consider here.
Incredibly so, yes.
Going back to what was the beginning of this entire tangent, I bought the Nintendo Wii remake in 2009. I played it, I had a good time with it, I've got to the end. I have not stopped thinking about it for the past 12 or so years. So after I played the remake for the Wii, I hunted down the sequel, again the aforementioned Lunatia's Veil. I managed to nab a copy off of Amazon. This was way before it became too expensive and rare to collect.
Yeah.
I played it on my PlayStation 2, which, by the way, still works to this day.
Thankfully.
Guess what happened? It changed my life forever, again! So eventually, I finally bought the original PlayStation 1 version of Klonoa Door to Phantomile. I bought it as a digital download for the then PlayStation 3 store. By that point, I had played all available versions of these two games. Not many, if I'm being honest. So imagine my surprise and my reaction of genuine joy when the Fantasy Reverie series was announced early on this year. You don't actually have to imagine it, you've seen it.
Yes, I've seen it, and I kind of knew it based on what I knew about you and your love for the Klonoa series.
I extremely am in love with the Klonoa series. And I'm so happy that it came out on all platforms, including PlayStation 4, because, okay, listen, I don't want to be one of those gamers that tell you, no, this game is sacred and must be played in this specific manner, or you're not doing it right. This exact voice. I'm not that kind of person. However, I will die on a hill of privilege. We're bringing back the hill of privilege. I will die on a hill by telling you that the only way to play Klonoa is with a functional controller, Sony-style controller, using the D-pad. If you play Klonoa with the stick, there is a special circle of hell just for you. Also, it is probably much worse to play with the stick. I cannot imagine playing Klonoa with anything but the D-pad. This is why I could not play this game on the Switch, because I don't have the Pro controller for it. And frankly, the D-pad on the default Joy-Cons, not really the best. And I'm telling you, playing Klonoa can make your hands hurt. Oh boy.
I must admit, with 2D or 2.5D games, I would prefer, the D-pad compared to the stick.
It just feels right. It just feels right to play it with the D-pad, because the platforming is very tight, and so is the game design.
Because you see, the analog stick is more designed for 3D space, in my opinion. It works best in that because you want to basically spin around and do a good turn on a stick in a 3D game. It works best with it. The D-pad in a 3D space doesn't work that well because you have to push 2 buttons at once if you want to go diagonal.
You're making me think about the time in which I tried to play Medieval, but I did not have a PlayStation controller with a stick, so that was not fun.
Yeah, a lot of early PS1 games were kind of cursed for that reason.
Exactly.
To age poorly for that reason. But
Klonoa has aged fantastically, by the way. Even the older graphics, they have this very particular charm, particular made in its day charm that surpasses a lot of, if not old games, made in that time. Oh, and the cinematic full motion video, PlayStation 1 style cutscenes are gorgeous to this very day. You would almost want to see an HD version of those. Unfortunately, and this will allow me to circle back to talk about the remake, the second remake, that is.
Yeah.
The current remake of Klonoa, Door to Phantomile, is not actually a remake of the PlayStation 1 game, it is the remake of the remake. They clearly used the Wii remake as the template to build this new game. So every cutscene uses the in-game engine. I'm not against it. After all, it was thanks to the Wii remake that I discovered Klonoa in the first place. So even though it's a slightly inferior version compared to the aesthetic presentation of the original game, I will still love it very much for being my introduction to the series at the time. That said, I think this particular remake is a bit ungraceful.
Ooh.
It looks right and it plays right, which is the most important thing in this context. However, I don't particularly like how Klonoa is designed in this version. They gave him back his classic cat-like eyes, which he had for the first game and no other game in the series. Yes, his design changed a little bit when Klonoa 2 came around. Actually, I think it changed even before that with that weird volleyball game for the PlayStation 1 that came out in between games. They should definitely localize that one. They did a few things right. His design is reminiscent of the first game, which is swell. However, a few details about his appearance leave a bit to be desired, in my opinion. His eyes are a bit too distant from each other. His nose used to be a cute triangle, but for some reason they decided to make it a more detailed feline nose. And I find it rather uncanny. But it's still very much Klonoa, it plays like Klonoa, and I am frustrated at the same bosses as I was when I played Klonoa. So it's definitely the Klonoa experience, the quintessential Klonoa experience. Now, that's for Door to Phantomile. The Lunatia's Veil remake, I remind you, is included in the same release. It's the Stuff of Dreams. Pun intended. The only existing version of this game was the PlayStation 2 title, which means that they use that as the template. And that game, and I don't say this lightly for anything, was the best sequel of all time. Not just the best video game sequel, the best sequel ever.
Put it on a pedestal.
It's so good, it means a lot to me, it makes me cry just thinking about it. It's so good. I would describe the remake of that title as the encapsulation of what my personal memory of the game looks like. How it looks like in my heart is now in front of me on the screen, with fully updated HD graphics and a little more detail in the fluff of Klonoa's ears, which is always a plus.
Big plus.
As I've hinted before, in this game, Klonoa's design is a little bit different. He's slightly older. If he was a child in Door to Phantomile, now he's a prepubescent teen. Now he looks like a Sonic OC. And mind you, I mean that in the best possible way. He still has his Pac-Man hat. And now he also does snowboarding on a regular basis. And those are the best levels in the game, if I'm being honest. I'll get to the point and then I will end it on this note. I want people to buy this game. There is no excuse not to buy this game. There was never any excuse not to play this game, because all of its games have been emulated at some point or the other. Certainly, it's the only way to play the Japanese exclusive releases. But I do want people to experience this series for themselves. I want them to form their own opinions, their own emotional connections with them. Because I might have given you my own reading, my very vague reading of it, which I have intentionally left it vague for the sake of avoiding spoilers, because these games have wrecked me. These games are the rare combination that managed to both emotionally wreck me and also stimulate me at an intellectual level. The only other game that managed to do that was Undertale, I believe. And I'll be honest, Undertale, as good as it is, I don't really enjoy playing it. I do enjoy playing Klonoa, though. So it's the best of two worlds in that sense. So this is my plea to all of you. I know it's doing relatively well as we speak, but I want you to buy this game. Buy this game, buy this game, play this game. If you don't want to buy this game, at least emulate it. Emulate both Klonoa 1 and 2 separately. Just play them. Experience them. And then come back and tell me what you thought of that. What is your reading of them? What do you make of them?
What is your own personal experience that you
What is your own
from it?
personal experience? Does it change your life? Does it change your perception about video games? Does it make you want to pursue a career in video game journalism? I hope not. Does it drive you to write a 1,000-page essay about it? Or make a video about it? Does it make you cry? Does it make you laugh? Does it leave you in a perennial state of ennui? Because honestly, now that this franchise is the most popular it has ever been, I cannot wait to experience that feeling vicariously through the eyes and the minds of new players. That's what I want to see. I will also want to see memes. So many memes. Listen, I've started a secondary Twitter profile that's just dedicated to Klonoa-related media, reposting, retweeting, and everything in between. This series, these two games have been my on and off monomaniacal obsession for well over a decade by now. I want them to become your obsession as well, so that you too can be indoctrinated into the Klonoa cult.
Cult Noah, huh?
That's bad and you should feel bad.
Yes.
Don't sleep on Klonoa. Ha! Sleep, get it? Dreams, dreaming, and whatnot.
Of course.
So yes, that's all I'm going to say about it. Which, surprisingly, didn't take as long as it did talking about the gosh darned Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers film.
For better and for worse.
Right, so I have no problem spending hours talking about something I emphatically dislike, because I have zero reverence towards it, and I have no qualms in spoiling everything about it. I have to let you know exactly why this is bad. But when it comes to something that's actually good, something that I hold sacred,
Yeah.
and I want people to experience it, so I have to avoid spoilers, be mindful of them. I have to try and convey why I think it's so good without actually going too much into detail. Now that's a real challenge. That's why it's very difficult for me to talk at length about Klonoa. But hopefully I did a good enough job in making you understand why I think it's so good. If not, you can always read my many tweets on my main Twitter account. Link in the description.
Of course. A link in description as always.
Okay. I have to see if I can move on from this current monomania. And then I just remember Xenoblade Chronicles 3 comes out at the end of July. Incidentally, July, it's my birthday month, so this is a good birthday, let me tell you.
Oh boy.
Let me tell you, what a good birthday. What a good birth month this has been for me so far.
I can understand that.
switching the gears and all of that. Devar,
Yeah.
do you have something to bring forth onto this perfectly well laid out table with many delicacies on top of it already?
Not really anything I played or watched recently, honestly. It's more of a thought process I was having about a trailer that came out last month for a game that was being advertised. It's a series, I'll tell you that much. A series that I have personal attachment to back in the days of MS-DOS, or rather the early versions of Windows. Last month, a trailer was released for Simon the Sorcerer Origins.
Hold on a minute, I have to do the spit take bit. I'm not actually going to do the spit take bit because I have delicate equipment in front of me.
Of course.
And I should not be wasting water
no,
in general.
Especially during the summer months.
Yes, so pretend I did a spit take right here and here as I react in bafflement and bewilderment at the news that what? Simon the Sorcerer? Really? First New Monkey Island and now Simon the Sorcerer?
Within 1 month, 2 protagonists from puzzle adventure games are making a comeback of some description, and not in 3D but in 2D styles.
I guess some lessons were learned at some point.
Yeah. A thing with Simon the Sorcerer Origins is that it's being sold as a prequel to the original Simon the Sorcerer series.
How does that even work?
That's what I want to know, but so far that's the only thing that has been gleaned from the trailer and the summary that has been left on Steam when I took a look at it.
If I recall the original game's manual correctly, there was an entire prologue to the game that was not included in the game, which would have Simon celebrating his birthday, bothering a stage magician, and then a mysterious pup shows up with a magical book in his maw, and that's when the game starts. If that's the prelude to Simon, I don't think there is enough meat for it to become its own game, but what do I know?
Yeah.
I have a feeling that this is less of a prequel and more of a reboot.
I would have thought so too, but the summary on Steam basically seems to claim it's a prequel, which means there's a bit of retconning going on, considering...
That is what I mean by reboot. A soft reboot, rather.
On the one hand, I'm intrigued to see if this goes well, Simon the Sorcerer Origins, considering I have a lot of love for the original 2 games that were released back in the early 90s. Simon the Sorcerer 1 and 2 to be exact.
Those were the only 2 Simon games ever made and nothing else for 30 years. Nothing else at all.
Yes.
Nope. You know what, Devar? I'd be tempted to force you to emulate Simon 3D. Just to make people understand. To make people understand how much of a fall from grace the 3D transition was for this series. You think that Escape from Monkey Island didn't look up to snuff?
Yeah.
Oh boy, that game had a budget.
You're telling me? Oh boy.
Oh no.
So to go over my feelings of the series sort of thing, as a whole...
Snarky magical boy.
We have Simon Sorcerer 1, which is a very charming point-and-click puzzle adventure game with a young boy who may or may not be a pet abuser.
Okay, depending on which version you were playing, there was the CD-ROM edition with full voice acting, or the floppy disk edition. Wow, floppy disks.
I know, right?
I played the floppy disk edition, which had music but no voice and no sound effects.
I played the CD version.
We did a Let's Play of it, a official MADPlay series.
I still remember when you were here and I decided to let you don the headphones because this would be an experience for you, considering I remember the voice lines the music, back to front. Simon the Sorcerer in the first game was voice acted by, let's see, I forgot the actor's name, but he played as Rimmer from Red Dwarf.
A odd choice for a 15-year-old boy.
Incredibly so.
I cannot get over how wrong his voice sounds.
It was the 90s, what do we expect?
You would expect people to sound like Sonic. Way past cool. Too slow. Everybody's voiced by that kid from Family Matters.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Simon the Sorcerer 2 grew up. It got a bit older, a bit...
Oh, just like Klonoa. Look at that thematic through line.
Oh. Growing up in Simon the Sorcerer's case is a bit more thirsty on one hand.
Okay, well, I like this. I like the contrast here, because growing up in Klonoa is treated as maturation. It is treated as a path towards adulthood, maturity, becoming a better person, figuring yourself out, possibly healing from a trauma, who can say? Whilst in Simon the Sorcerer, it's Beavis and Butthead, I suppose.
I will never forget the time I played Simon the Sorcerer 2 for the first time as a teenager, I believe. I was starting to become a teenager at the time. And I remember finding it amusing slightly Simon's cheeky grin whenever he says something that is saucy, dirty, or he's showing a bit of cheek to the person he's talking to.
Okay, well, listen, he's a growing lad, so he's going to have a few thoughts and be very mature. That's normal.
Yeah.
That's perfectly acceptable. Also, every point-and-click adventure protagonist was a snarky, cheeky sod. Everybody tried to be Guybrush Threepwood in the 90s. Let us not kid ourselves.
Oh no, let's not kid ourselves at all. But the only difference is, I would say Guybrush is someone with pure intentions.
Well, pure intentions, I wouldn't say that the Guybrush from Monkey Island 2 was a very good person.
Well, no, because puzzle game protagonists basically do take to some...
I mean that in that game it was purposefully written to be a douchebag who was consumed by his own hype.
Yeah. That's true.
That's what we in the business call character progression. Look that up if you don't know what that is.
Both of these games, Simon the Sorcerer 1 and 2, they have the same sort of art style of...
Very storybook style presentation.
Yeah, gorgeous use of 2D pixels, essentially, for the time that both of these games were made in.
I want to say 1992 for the first one, or was it 1993?
So
Yes.
The first one was released in 1993, while the second one was 1995.
Yes, that makes sense.
So the games were released in that time period. But let's consider this. The fact that these two games started off with a great high that has a loyal fan base, especially in the European area, especially in Germany, from my research.
Oh, Germany is the adventure game country. They are the country that single-handedly kept the genre going through all the roughest patches.
So I want you to consider this. These games were considered so popular, especially in Germany, that afterwards, in 98, they released two pointless things, a pinball game and a Simon the Sorcerer puzzle pack, which essentially was Simon the Sorcerer themed solitaire and jigsaw puzzles. Minigames.
I want them in my life now! And I know for a fact you have a Simon t-shirt.
Yes, I do. I actually own a Simon Sorcerer t-shirt, which I shared the photo with Madhog.
I want the Sam and Max Nendoroid.
Also, I should probably add that the Simon the Sorcerer puzzle pack also had a unique game where you, as the player, have to help the Swampling rescue his children from the evil Sworded.
Hold on. The Swampling has kids? Moreover, the Swampling had sex? I don't want to imagine that! No! I don't need that in my life right now. No. The Swampling. Did he score by offering his partner a free sample of delectable swamp soup?
I don't want to spoil it just in case you want to play the second game of the series.
Spoil it away, Devar. Don't worry about it.
Yes, he found a wife.
He found a wife. Is she hot?
You never see her.
Oh, I get it. It's one of those sitcom tropes.
But you do get to see the Swampling's kids in the playpen.
Is this a gadget and zipper situation? Are the kids some sort of unspeakable monstrosities?
No, they look like Swamplings.
I guess we dodged that bullet. Or maybe we didn't want to dodge it.
And then we get to 2002, Simon the Sorcerer 3D.
2 years after Escape from Monkey Island.
And Simon looks so blocky.
Well, if you have to find a silver lining in the way Simon 3D looks, it becomes marginally better if you pretend it's a Lego video game. It was Minecraft before Minecraft. It looks bad. Even for the time, it looks exceptionally blocky.
I mean, the only upside I can tell you about Simon Sorcerer 3D is I remember being amused by a couple of jokes here and there. But other than that, you're not playing it for how it looks or for how it plays.
So, basically, you're not playing it for anything.
Yes, you should not. No, then again, maybe I should save that for 2007 when they decided to release a sequel called Simon the Sorcerer 4 Chaos Happens. I
only know that it exists. Is it really that bad?
I played it. It is boring, ugly, has no sense of humor. Oh god, the voice acting. Somebody trying to emulate what Simon the Sorcerer is and not being funny or charming. The only thing you could say about it is that it continues after Simon the Sorcerer 3D story, but the story is nothing to write home about at all because it's so boring.
Speaking of Simon 3D, there is one scene from that game that I remember vividly, and that was a very bad fat joke at the expense of a large wizard gentleman, which Simon called him something along the lines of a Greenpeace submarine disguised as a whale. I could be wrong, but I mean, it made me laugh at the time, not so much right now, but I have to say, Greenpeace submarine disguised as a whale is one heck of an insult.
But like I said, at least Simon the Sorcerer 3D had that going for it. Some amusing bone in its body, at least.
Of course, if you don't particularly care about that mean-spirited whine of British humor, then this series will not be for you at all.
Yeah.
If you like Monty Python, even the bad Monty Python gags, Simon the Sorcerer is basically the bad Monty Python gags made into a video game.
Yeah. This would be my final game of the series that I decided to...
I know that there is one more after that.
Oh, technically there was two more, but I'll get to the sixth one. I'll explain what happened there with the sixth one. The fifth one came out, and I remember seeing the trailer for it and being like, nope, we now have aliens involved.
Sure. I mean, technically Ultima had space travel as far back as the first game.
Yeah.
But, you know, it was innovative at the time.
Simon Sorcerer 5 was going to be titled Who'd Even Want Contact?
That is the least funny subtitle I've ever heard.
Simon Sorcerer 4 was my final game. I didn't even complete Simon the Sorcerer 4 because it was that bad.
I have never beaten Simon 3D for that matter.
I beat Simon 3D.
Good for you! Was your life enriched by the experience?
can't say that I was, but the final puzzle did blow my mind somewhat. I just realized Simon 3D required something specific that's not on modern computers these days, unless you actually have it. The final puzzle of Simon 3D required you to open your own CD-ROM drive, to open the CD-ROM drive in-game.
Okay, honestly, that would have been brilliant at the time, but now it's impossible to play!
Exactly. So there is no way to complete Simon 3D on modern computers.
Wow.
I can't believe I've only just thought of this just now.
Anyway, so the 5th game in the series has aliens in it. Aliens, man.
Talk about literally alienating your fans.
That was an easy joke, but then again, it's Simon the Sorcerer, so it's always the lowest hanging fruit with this series. In fact, I seem to recall a puzzle in Simon 3D that was about actually getting a fruit to fall off a tree. Yes, and we killed a man by doing that, because, of course, you cannot do anything in these games without ruining something or somebody's life.
Pretty much.
The aliens one, what comes after that?
Well, this is actually the end technically, because while the 6th game, called Between Worlds, was in development, due to unforeseen circumstances, as the developers have called it.
Lack of interest, maybe?
Lack of funds, unforeseen circumstances, and thus the game was actually shelved.
Ooh, somebody better call Matt McMuscles. This is a What Happened episode.
This game was supposed to have come out somewhere in 2016 or something along those lines. And Simon Sorcerer 5 was released in 2010. So imagine my surprise and Madhog's spit take when Simon Sorcerer Origins comes back into my heart and promises me 2D animated backdrops and character sprites, point-and-click adventure goodness like I would have enjoyed back in the day. But yet, when I look at it, I can't help but wonder and have trepidation because it's a reboot / prequel to a beloved game franchise when it was at its peak popularity. So consider that maybe the developers who are in charge of making Origins probably have the intention of going back this far to try and entice its older fans who love those 2 particular games of Simon 1 and 2 to come back and give Origins the good old college try.
I wish it wasn't titled Simon Origins, because we already have a Sonic Origins. We have too many video games titled Origins.
Yeah, I agree with this.
It's not even technically a sorcerer.
Teenager in the bathrobes.
Simon questioning his gender.
So I just wanted to get that off my chest, my feelings of the series overall, because I don't think I ever had the chance to talk about it in depth. And plus, since Origins is coming out in March 2023...
Wow, that's almost a whole year!
I'm a little nervous about whether it's going to be a return to form, or whether it's going to be something that's turned into something bad, but in its own variety of bad. That's not Simon 4 and 5 bad, not Simon Sorcerer 3D bad, but its own kind of bad.
But, Devar, what if it is Discworld bad?
Discworld bad? Oh, I never thought about Discworld bad. I know Madhog's feelings on Discworld.
We should clarify, when we say Discworld, we do not mean the celebrated literary series by late author and genius Terry Pratchett. No, we're talking about the 1995 PC adventure game, which of course there was a 1995 PC adventure game of Discworld, and it was terrible. I hate it. To summarize, Simon the Sorcerer has a lot of nostalgic value. Rose-tinted glasses going on in your general direction,
Pretty much.
you might say. To me personally, even though it is basically the first game I've ever played, not the first one I've ever beaten, that's Sam and Max, but it is the first game I've ever played. I have no problem in saying that when it comes to the tier list of adventure games in the peak years for the genre between 1990 and 1993, that's a C or D list. That's where Simon belongs.
I would put it in a B tier because Simon 1 and 2 were fun experiences, but they're nothing great. They're not Monkey Island.
Day of the Tentacle, Sam and Max.
Oh
great.
no, Day and the Tentacle was my top favorite puzzle adventure game released during the 90s.
Yes, I would agree. Growing up, I sort of left this genre behind because I can demand more and better from my video game experience without dealing with annoyingly designed logic puzzles. To formulate an example, that is, much like Klonoa has to learn to accept change and grow up, that change is part of life, I too had to move on at some point. So strangely enough, even though I played these games as a child, they do not have a stranglehold on my heart. No, it's the games that I played when I was in my early 20s instead. In between my 20s and my 30s. Those are the games that really shaped my worldview when it comes to the artistic achievement of the medium.
I will say this for myself personally, from my own experience through childhood, teenhood, and in my early 20s, that I actually feel like I've been blessed with the gift of experiencing a variety of different genres in the house I got to grow up in, with an interesting variety of games based on my family, from my dad and from my uncle, who was very into his gaming, and also my cousins, who were also very heavily into gaming. So I got to see a lot of variety of different games as I grew up. So I always felt like that variety was the most important thing to me. Genres that I have grown attached to. Not because I have rose-tinted glasses for those genres, but rather I have a connection to those genres, and they fill a certain need that I like about those genres. For puzzle adventure games, it's about not only the puzzles, but the stories, and the worlds that you get to interact with.
Yes, but that's exactly what I meant. You play an adventure game not for the puzzles, you play them for the story, the characters, and the comedy, in some cases.
Yeah.
But then, as video games evolved, now you can have all of that in action games and games that do not drive you crazy trying to figure out a literal butterfly effect in Discworld. You know?
Yes, I remember that. I told you about how much that pissed me off.
Terrible. But anyway, so nowadays I'm mostly a person who plays games for the gameplay. A game has to entice me on that front before anything else. Rarely I do get into a new ludonarrative venture for said narrative. I mentioned that Klonoa is a puzzle platformer, and I'll be honest with you, that's not exactly my favorite genre per se. If the character didn't look the way he did, I would not have been curious at all about this franchise. The way you choose to present your interactive text to an audience makes the difference between engagement or lack thereof. The Klonoa games are some of, if not the best games in my personal experience, and most of that is because I play as Klonoa. Conversely, I love playing something like Mario Odyssey. It's very fun to play, but I sure don't care about Mario himself. He's not a real character, he's a brand, and I do not care that he looks like an Italian stereotype through Japanese lenses. I don't care about the Mario design, but Mario is important because without Mario we wouldn't have all of the other characters that we actually care about, such as Klonoa.
Yeah.
So here we are. I might have lost the point of all that tangent. Essentially, the reasons why a video game comes to mean a lot to you depends from, like you said, a variety of factors. to me, Klonoa came into my life just at the right time and at the right place to shape me into the intellectual mastodon I am today. And on that high note, I am about to melt due to the summer heat. I need to end this podcast or I will literally die.
I apologize.
I will literally melt like Judge Doom in Who Framed Roger Rabbit. This is the end of me. What a world. Oh, what a world. Which was a reference to The Wizard of Oz.
Yeah.
I hope this was a enlightening and intellectually stimulating podcast for all of your listening needs, everybody. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel and follow us on our Twitters, or as I like to call them, our Twatters.
Yep.
Links would be in the description or somewhere on the screen, depending on when or where I remember to put them. Right, I have been
Madhog Die Master.
And I've been Devar.
And this has been yet another episode of the MADPlay podcast, the inevitable Klonoa episode. Or would you prefer the inevitable Simon the Sorcerer episode? I am tasked with the dreadful endeavor to come up with fun and silly and engaging titles for our episodes.
The inevitable Origins episode. Good night, everybody.
Good night. Although we did get a gnome being shot out of a makeshift bazooka to his death in Simon 3D.
Yes.
We didn't really need it, nor we really wanted it, but we definitely did get that. Hooray!